Welcome to Unapologetically AuDHD. I'm Patricia Young, MSW, and I'm an AuDHD former therapist and current coach.
I'm Alex McLaughlin, MSW and LICSW, and I'm an AuDHD therapist. This is a podcast with two friends processing what it's like to live in body-minds that diverge from neuronormative standards, and everything that comes with it, the good, the bad, and the beautifully messy.
We aim to release 2 or more episodes per month. This podcast is not meant to be a substitute for help from a licensed mental health practitioner. Welcome, listeners. I'm so glad you're here today. I hope you are doing well. Alex, how are you doing today?
I am feeling tired today. As we're recording is the day after what I'm I'm not going to use the word Thanksgiving, so I'm going to call it Harvest Feast. And I'm feeling tired. I didn't get enough sleep the night before. And, then the events and the socializing and then the prepping and all of that, right? It's a lot. And I went over my pace points, which for those that don't know is like I use the Visible app. If you're chronically ill, you probably get targeted ads for it if you're on social media. But essentially, it's like spoons. So a pace point is similar to the spoon. Pace point is similar to spoon theory. So anyways, I overspent and all those things that I mentioned, and I'm feeling tired. How are you?
I'm sorry to hear you're tired. Holidays can be really exhausting and take a toll out of all of us, many of us, most of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we celebrated our harvest feast on Saturday prior. And it's interesting. I knew that we weren't going to have plans yesterday, and I was not direct enough with my husband about what I needed. And so I kind of was mopey yesterday. I didn't take a shower. I stayed in pajamas, and I kind of secretly blamed him, which I'm very good at. And I just wasn't being direct. And so I was feeling, I think what I call depression, I think is really resentment for not being direct. And that really should be aimed at me and not my husband. And I was feeling grinchy, but we took out our holiday decorations today, and I have lots of Grinch stuff. And I had forgotten I received new stuff last year, so I pulled it all out. But I think that the idea of the Grinch, I relate to that because I feel very grinchy inside a lot. And I think many of us have been told that, don't be so negative and cheer up, and denying who we are as AuDHDers. And so the Grinch just feels very validating and brings me joy. So that's how I am.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's funny that the Grinch brings you joy. But I mean, I hear what you're saying, and like it is validating that it like gives permission almost to like be grinchy, because we're all grinchy as humans.
Sure.
Like just we're going to be grinchy at times, right? And especially when things change or like things don't go as we expected them to, like that can cause us to be grinchy, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And today we are going to talk about how do we manage when things change. And for me, I believe that our autistic nature really likes sameness and repetition. That's how we keep our nervous systems regulated. And change, even when it's positive, can be dysregulating. The holidays, which can be exciting and fun, can be dysregulating. Even today, we were taking out decorations, and I'd have Grinch stuff from my bathroom, and I've got holiday bedding from my bedroom, and I set it all up, and there was miscellaneous stuff sitting around. And I told my husband, like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I just need to sit down. That all the extra stuff felt overwhelming. And so I want to validate this for people, that even things that you enjoy can be dysregulating and overwhelming, and change can be difficult. What's your experience, Alex?
Yeah, I agree. And I'm thinking when you're talking about like even positive change, like even starting a new job that like I'm excited about, that's so much change. And I think even for neurotypicals, it takes a toll on us. Like if we think about kids when they go back to school, they're often more exhausted because it's a complete shift from like summer mode to get back into school mode and to be in a different routine and to like adapt to new teachers and, a change in who you're in class with, right? It's exhausting. And right, for those of us that are autistic, we need that predictability. And when that's not there, we just have a shorter, shrunken window of tolerance.
Sure.
And yeah, it's a lot. I tend to be more, use up pace points more quickly when I'm experiencing change. I can be more prone to a meltdown or shutdown or dissociation. During times of change, I can get really irritable and cranky and like snap at people, which for me, that's a cue that I'm about to have a meltdown or shutdown is when I'm like really cranky and like gonna snap at people. Yeah.
I think too, with the examples of starting a new job, even for kids going back to school, if you're parenting, that whole idea of being perceived and having to make mistakes. And if we have issues with wanting to be perfect, our need as autistics for things to be consistent. So if you're given instructions and then you're given instructions that conflict that, and how are you going to be receiving feedback? Like all of those things can really be dysregulating for us. And I think I mentioned that my son and his wife moved in with us. And so that was an adjustment. And then she got a kitten the day after she moved in. And I've been loving the kitten. But there are things that go on with the kitten and the dogs and making sure that certain things and putting out ornaments now. She's not here, the kitten's not here, but anticipating. One of my rules is if you have something that's precious and we know we have a kitten and I put it out in a place where the kitten can get it, that's on me. So thinking about what things are precious and where do I want to put them, because we have a lot of unknowns, but also the fact that she's not here and the kitten's not here has been a change, and that's an adjustment. And we had a full house of people with both kids and both partners here for Harvest Feast. And then having them go and then her leave and the kitten leave and then my son's leaving tonight. So even those changes of having a house full of people coming, going, are all adjustments. And I find myself having a really difficult time with it. And it's not that I have a preference, but it's just the change itself and the change in routine and who's here and what's going on, that's challenging.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but for me, it can feel like when I expect something to go a certain way, and then let's say like the plans change or there's an additional person or the absence of a person, like I need to like mentally prepare for whatever is going to happen. And then when that changes, especially last minute, that can feel really dysregulating, because then I don't have really the time to like process and mentally prepare. And like maybe, I said yes to a thing because there were going to be less people, and maybe I said yes because like I knew it maybe wasn't going to take as many pace points or spoons. And then if there's new people, right, I know that I'm going to be essentially like asked to engage in small talk, and like that's so exhausting. And it's just, yeah, it can be a lot.
Yeah, all of these things can take time for us to wrap our heads around. And if we are with people that are also neurodivergent or understand us, it tends to not be as big of a problem. But I think so many of us, even if it's not happening currently, have gotten messages about being rigid or inflexible or not being able to go with the flow, or how come we just can't relax or chill, and that can be really challenging. So then when those things come up, we have to manage our own feelings about it. And then we often have our own internalized ableism about the things that we've heard, or simultaneously there's externalized ableism going on where we're getting those messages in real time about how we're not managing things, quote, correctly. And there is no correct.
Yeah. And that just like baffles me, like people like commenting on how other people are responding to something. It's just like, if someone like could respond differently, they would. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not choosing to like have difficulty with change, or like we're not choosing a meltdown. Like, if we had control over it, then we wouldn't choose these things. And just, I think it's one thing to like say hurtful things and to like put that, I don't know, like not project, but like take it out on others. Like that's one thing. But like if we're having our own reaction and just need time to have our own reaction, like how does it bother? You know what I mean? Like it just that kind of baffles me a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you manage yourself? Like, can
Yeah.
you just let me have the reaction I need to have and like trust that I can manage me? But like, you need to manage your reaction to my reaction. Like, this isn't about me. This is about how you are perceiving and feeling about how I'm reacting.
Right. Right. Well, it's interesting. This is, in my mind, this is adjacent. If it feels not adjacent, please feel free to tell me. We have one of our dogs is very, very barky. She's just very alert and very barky. And the way that I deal with her generally is to thank her for barking because she's doing her job and she's alerting us. And that's what I do. My husband and my son tend to yell at her and they often will get up. And so she, jumps down from, our trainer taught us that we can't stop the barking, but the trainer taught us to teach her to place. So she goes and sits on this chair and she waits and she gets a reward. She's very smart. So she often will bark, then go to the place where she places for her reward because she knows.
She barks and you ask her to go to her place. She's like, oh, this is the sequence of events that I need to follow.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a perfect process and that we've mastered it because we haven't. But my son and my husband get angry and they yell at her. And then my response is I want to yell at them because we shouldn't be yelling at the dog. I don't yell at them, but I think that this is often what happens, that, people have a hard time managing their reactions. And I would guess that in many families of origin, that there are probably undiagnosed autistic parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. And when they had the reaction that the autistic person is having before the autistic person was born, they were told a certain thing so that when they see that behavior show up in someone else, they repeat the same thing and they don't have, they never learned how to manage their own reaction. And so they shut it down in someone else. I'm not making excuses, but I think that's part of what happens is when we don't have emotional intelligence and we haven't learned how to navigate big feelings, big reactions. And maybe they're not even big reactions, they're just reactions and feelings. And so we try and shut it down in other people.
Yeah, it's almost like I reject this in me. And so, and like I have internalized all the rejection from others about this trait or whatever. And so I'm now projecting that onto you because like I've learned that this is bad to have that reaction. And right, like it comes from a place of, I'm guessing, love and care. But it is a projection, and it is like them not dealing with their own stuff or not being aware of like where this is coming from, where this reaction to their reaction is coming from. But
yeah. And I have to say that I think that, again, this relates is my son and his wife are living with us. And so we've developed a nice rhythm of how things are. And then having my other son and his girlfriend come home, the dynamics change in lots of different ways. And I feel like I'm the only one that can see how these dynamics change. And it's a little, I would assume that as autistics, we often observe and see things and patterns that other people don't see. And so it can feel very isolating. And it's also a little overwhelming for me. And I have some narrative of how my husband sometimes favors my daughter-in-law over me.
oh,
There's some truth in that, and there's not some truth in it. And because of my OCD, it's sometimes difficult for me to parse that out. And it's interesting. I did name something the other day. I don't think this directly relates to what I'm saying, so I just want to name that. But I could have sworn that we were talking about with the kitten. I was talking to my husband privately about what do we want to do about a tree. And I could have sworn that he said we should get a smaller tree and just put it up so that the cat can't get into the tree. That's what I heard. And then we were in the van with my daughter-in-law and they were talking, or we were probably in the living room and talking. And then my husband said we were going to get a big tree. And in my autistic being pedantic, you said one thing, now you're saying something different. And it's very unsettling for me. I don't care whether we get a small or big tree, but if you tell me that we're getting a small tree and then you tell somebody else we're getting a big tree, that inconsistency is very difficult. And so the three of us were driving somewhere together and I was really like, do I say something? Do I not say something? I don't want to create conflict. And I thought it's the inconsistency that I'm struggling with. So I brought it up at the risk of whatever was going to happen. And my husband said that he didn't say we would get a small tree. He just said that that's an option. And I have to trust that that's correct. My husband's not someone who would intentionally say one thing and change. And I may have just misunderstood. And then, of course, there's like a very, very, very awkward silence in the van. And I'm thinking like, ugh, I shouldn't have said anything. And we worked it out. But I think that these are very common things that happen and we often don't know what's going on. So I felt grateful that I was able to identify that things that are inconsistent are really, really hard for me. And if somebody says one thing and then they say another thing, I have a very hard time rectifying that. And there's a dynamic that my husband and I have where I think this happens very frequently. And it's probably more because I can be very aware of what I say and what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. And I don't think that he is. So he just kind of says stuff and then he gets more information and then maybe things shift. And it's not intentional, but it's very, very distressing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Right. It's like I kind of have a reaction when like something changes, even if it's a small thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know about you, but for me, it's almost like did I misremember? Like, I think I have some like trauma response around like misremembering things. And so, and like, right, part of it also is my brain like registered that as this is what the plan was, or this is what we talked about. And then that changes. And all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, it feels kind of jarring almost for me in my body. I'm kind of sitting with what you were saying earlier about like people are here and then they're not here and then they're here again. Like that's a lot of transition and adapting to a new dynamic, especially if you're the only one that's like aware of that dynamic, because then you're kind of having to like hold that awareness almost. I don't know about it, like maybe you don't take that on, but like I would feel like, oh, I'm the one holding this and I'm the one that's like having to manage the changes in the dynamic because I'm a recovering people pleaser. Like that's where my brain would go. But like that's a lot of transitions.
Yeah.
Right. Not only is the dynamic changing, but there's more people. You have to navigate around more people. There's a kitten. There's not a kitten. You know what I mean? It's just like that's a lot.
Well, and there's history too. And it is interesting that my daughter-in-law especially, she and I are very similar. And so we often will say like, ugh, like my son and my husband are very similar and she and I are very similar. So I don't feel so alone when I can say like, oh my gosh, did you? And she's like, yes, I totally, she can catch those inconsistencies. And I think that when there's a lot going on, I tend to feel very alone. And there's probably some trauma in that for me as well. But it's a lot. And I just want to name that it's a lot. And it's okay that it's a lot. And I think often we judge ourselves for having a hard time and not understanding why we're having a hard time.
Yeah. And like, I don't know about you, sometimes my brain is like, I need to know why this is hard. I'm trying to let go of that and just be like, this is hard. Like my body, my nervous system is having a reaction. I don't need to know in this moment. I just need like that's information and that's okay. Like that's enough information I need to manage.
Yeah.
Which I guess brings us to my question of like, how do you manage when things change?
And I don't think that there's one answer. I know for me, acknowledging to myself that it's change and that change can be very difficult, can be hard. And depending on what the change is, sometimes it means that we just take all the expectations off if we can and we go back to basic comfort. And if that means wearing comfortable clothes and having food and drink that's comfortable and watching shows that are comfortable and lessening social obligations, that's one of the things that we can do. Sometimes it means getting busy. Like this morning when I was kind of in a funk, I sort of thought maybe and it was nice because no one was home. That seems to be really helpful. And I put on some music and just started doing stuff that sometimes moving can help to shift that energy. Sometimes moving our bodies, to get our heart rate up can be regulating. Having regular events that we do with other people, if that's comforting, spending time with animals. I don't think that there's one thing that we can do. But I think that our need for accuracy is often misinterpreted as being picky or, always having to be right. But it's really that need for the inconsistency can be really challenging for us. And I think that when we're already feeling on shaky ground with a lot of change, I often grasp for things to feel like I look for sameness. And when I'm seeing that inconsistency, it just creates more of that. It's probably trauma for me, but I think it's real and it's valid and very common for other people.
Right. And it can be both, right? Like maybe it's trauma. And also, we know that autistic folks, we need that consistency and predictability. Yeah. I like what you said around, I mean, you didn't name it, but like routine, like keeping whatever semblance of routine feels safe. Maybe it's like habits. Like if you're an AuDHD, like maybe you're like, ooh, routine, blah. Nope, can't do that. But maybe it's like you're saying, like your comfort food, or for me, it's like I have to have my coffee no matter where I am. I have to bring a pour over set up. I have to have the same coffee, my creamer, having my sensory items, and like watching my comfort show. But creating, because really what's missing is that predictability. And so if we can create that in other ways for ourselves, and maybe we need that more when there is change, like maybe we need extra routines or extra habits or extra comforts, because, right, it's layered, like we're kind of naming, it's layered, like the reactions that we have, it's layered. And if that's what our nervous systems need, then how can we create that for ourselves?
Sure. I don't know about you, but I often go into self-judgment when I'm not able to maintain my routine. And I'm thinking about yesterday, which is the day that everybody celebrates when you eat turkey. And because we celebrated on Saturday, I'd been very low key this week and very low energy, sleeping more. And then yesterday, I didn't have anything to do and I didn't shower and I stayed in my pajamas all day and ate comfort food, ate some sweets, watched TV, did not move my body, did not walk the dogs. And like, I have some judgment about that. And I'm wondering if that's almost a shutdown after just having all this activity where I was able to communicate about what I needed and it just still was too much. Like, I don't know, but it's very hard for me to not have judgment. And it's funny because our kids checked in yesterday and like, I'm having kind of a quiet, boring day. And I FaceTime both kids and, I don't look great because I haven't done my hair and I'm wearing pajamas and I'm okay with how I am. But I had some shame and embarrassment about that, or when I struggle with preparing food and like basic parts of adulting are hard for me. And that's kind of a common reoccurrence. And it's hard for me to not have judgment. And I'm sure that that's related to when there's a lot of change. I find those things just really hard. How about you? Or what does it look like for you?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate you being like vulnerable about that and honest. And I don't know. I mean, I think my therapist brain is like, it makes sense because it's like a shrinking, our window of tolerance is shrinking. And so, and also like it takes spoons, pace points, whatever system you use, like to manage change. And so, right, those things are going to fall off, like those activities of daily living, like bathing, you didn't say these things, but like doing dishes, laundry, etc., like those things that we need to do to kind of like adult. Yeah, I usually like, to answer your question, I usually need a lot of rest after, like, my pace points might be limited that day. I'm pretty sure I have chronic fatigue syndrome, so I usually am in like post-exertional malaise. Like, I think it's hitting me right now, actually, as we're recording. I've only been awake for 2.5 hours at this point, and I've taken my Vyvanse, I've had my caffeine, I got 9 hours of sleep, like, but I'm feeling so exhausted in this moment. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. Like, I could go back to sleep for another 15 hours. Like, so for me, yeah, that like post-exertional malaise, which I should maybe define for those that don't know. So it's a common symptom of chronic fatigue syndrome where after you exert yourself, and exertion can be like physical, but also mental, social, you feel like crappy, like malaise. I actually don't know the actual definition, but essentially it's like whatever symptoms you have that are associated with your chronic fatigue or other chronic illnesses, usually those are exacerbated. And with chronic fatigue, it's usually you feel extra tired. I get flu-like symptoms. I'm often like giving myself COVID tests because I'm like, I might have COVID. And I'm like, no, I'm just in post-exertional malaise. I usually get migraines because I have migraines and I can get more potsy. Like I'm also feeling dizzy as we're talking. So yeah, like it really affects me, I will say. Now that I'm like saying this out loud, I'm like, dang, like change really affects me. And like just I'd overdid it, which like that really affects me. And I know these things about my body, but yeah. And then yeah, I have all these dishes to do and I'm like, I don't have the capacity to do them today at all. Like I think all I can do today is record this podcast, take my dog for a walk and go pick up her meds from the vet. And I think that's all I honestly am going to be able to do. Yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but
No, I think that was a great answer. And I think that that's really common.
yeah.
I know that when I do things in the evening, I tend to get wired and tired and I have a very hard time unwinding. So I generally do not do things in the evening. But last week on Saturday, I did something and I came home and was so exhausted, but it's like my body was vibrating. And I think that's another way that that can show up as being so overstimulated. You know, I often joke like I wish I could just open up the top of my head and just take my brain out and let it rest somewhere because I'm just, you know, it's so much. But I think it's more common for us to go into fatigue than that wired sense.
Yeah, I feel that though too. Like, cause yesterday I was so tired, but because like I think, I don't know, and they talked about this. I don't remember what episode, but I think it was Divergent Conversations. It might have been a different autism on podcast. I listened to it like 2 years ago, but I think it was a different podcast. But it was like someone talking about how for those of us, and I think they were talking about AuDHD, like it takes us a lot longer to make those transitions too, like for our nervous systems to go from like that kind of overstimulation, like engaged energy to like winding down. Like I needed to like lay down on my prana mat, which is like an acupressure mat with my Kindle. I needed to read and I did that for like an hour, but I was so tired, but I'm like, I can't mentally, physiologically, my body is wired. Like I can't fall asleep right now. I got to do something to get my body to be ready to sleep. Kind of like you're saying, you felt last week. I don't know if that's similar to how you felt.
No, I think it is. And the other night, it felt like it was too early for bed, that if I go to bed too early, then I wake up in the middle of the night and I don't like that. But I did lie down on my bed with the dog and I was on my phone. And then I did end up falling asleep. And then I woke up a few hours later and then got ready for bed and then had a really hard time falling asleep. But I mean, what are you going to do when you're tired? You're just tired. And I think it's not uncommon for us to also have lots of issues with joints and pain. And often lying down is one of the few ways that I feel like my body can relax the most. It still doesn't relax. But this is all related to change because we're doing different things and our bodies can't always take it. So,
Yeah. I'm also just realizing in this moment, like transitions are change too. Like there's like many tiny changes in the day that, and we know that transitions are just harder for us, right? We need more time to transition. And especially if we're monotropic, we might need even more time to transition.
For those of you that sit in your car after you get somewhere, you get home and you need a couple minutes in your car to be on your phone, that's how we transition. I really struggle with starting things. If I do very well with time-oriented tasks and structure, and I think this is kind of where the challenge is, that when the kids are around, there's more structure, and when they're gone, there's no structure, and if there's no need to start anything, then I just don't start stuff. And so again, those are struggles that we have around rest and task initiation, and I think all this stuff is very real for us.
Yeah, 100%.
Is there anything else that you want to share or talk about change before we wrap up, Alex?
I think I won't say like maybe if you're going to walk away with anything from this episode, just permission to like be gentle with yourself, to like do less during times of change, to be compassionate, and to like, as much as possible, right? Like recognize if the judgment's showing up and like see if you can identify like the roots, like, oh, that's internalized ableism, or right, oh, there's fear here actually about like not getting to all my things on my list, whatever, right? Like see if you can like recognize where it's coming from rather than taking it on as, oh, this is true. Like this judgment that's coming across my brain is true. Like see if you can get some distance and like unblend or separate from those thoughts. Would be my takeaways.
Yeah. I hear that many autistics hate using a scale of 1 to 10, and I honor that. For me, it is super helpful, and I often will use it. How uncomfortable am I? How anxious am I? How tired am I? And it just helps me kind of get concrete data, because often the feelings feel so big and I have a hard time understanding what's going on, but it helps me to quantify what's going on. For me, understanding and naming. And I would say if you really struggle with transitions and you're not really able to use the tools that we're talking about, if nothing else, just for starters, is to start acknowledging, like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm having a big reaction. I'm judging myself because I'm having a big reaction. So we start with that awareness, and we may continue to do the same thing, but we go, oh, I'm doing it again. And to try and have as much self-compassion as we can, because it's just what happens when we start recognizing patterns and we notice ourselves kind of jumping in and doing them until we learn to do it differently. And it's really okay. It's stuff you've probably been doing all along anyways. You just didn't have the awareness. So the only thing that changed is now you're seeing it.
Yeah. And I think, right, that can lead into more judgment. I mean, that's not really what you're saying, but like this kind of like maybe the underlying message that I'm picking up is like the more we're aware of it, right? I think the more it feels like it's happening all the time, but it's like maybe not. Maybe you're just more aware of it. And also because you're more aware of it, you might be more likely to judge. And so, yeah, that's a great point to just like know that can happen.
Yeah. What I was thinking is there's, and the gist of it is it's by Claudia Black and it's The Hole. And what I was envisioning when I was talking about this is like you walk down the street and you fall in the hole. And then you recognize that the hole is there, which is kind of the behavior. And then you jump in the hole, which is the part that we're talking about. Like, oh, there's that hole and you jump in it. And eventually you walk around it. And then finally, you see the hole and you cross the street and you walk on the other side of the street. But part of the process is like we see the hole and we jump in it repeatedly until we have some other tools and we do it differently, and just knowing that that's part of the process and that it's okay, and to have some gentleness and compassion for yourself. Yeah.
I've never heard that analogy. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that. Anything else before we wrap up, Alex?
Not that I can think of. Yeah. Is there anything you want to add?
No, just be kind and gentle to yourself if you can. Be gentle with others. Allow yourself to have comfort where you need it, and rest is okay. And being productive is not all it's cracked up to be.
And like rest is productive.
Thank you.
Because we need that.
Yeah.
And rest is resistance.
Yes. And there's a book called Rest is Resistance. We'll put it in the show notes. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, Alex.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for spending time with us in this space where your too muchness is never too much. Remember, you're not broken and you're definitely not alone. We're here to honor the complexity, celebrate the nuance, and walk this neurodivergent path together.
You might consider giving us a rating and a review on the platform you listen to podcasts. It gives others an opportunity to see our podcast and walk this path with us. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind to your nervous system, and stay unapologetically AuDHD. You belong here.